Usually, anything with the words planned economy changes tends to give me a small tick in my left eye as my blood pressure shoots through the roof. But this time it doesn't seem too horrific. Indeed, there's actually quite a few good changes coming in the near future. The very near future, actually, as early as next week, in fact. So what's going on? Well, for starters, there are going to be some rather large reductions made to certain aspects of the economy in terms of research requirements. So, there was a post that went up on the forums about 12 hours ago from me recording this anyway. Basically, planned economy changes for August, usually the words of woe, but this time it isn't so bad. And a bunch of stuff has been listed in here. So, yes, there are going to be many reductions in the RP requirements for vehicles in the game. Now, most of this is focused on aircraft, especially jets, as a result of the introduction of Tier 7 aircraft. There has been a reduction in the cost for purchasing aircraft modifications in terms of silver line costs, and there have been changes made to ground and aircraft research trees. So many vehicles have been folded together, and some have had their places switched around. Now, frankly, these are all changes that have been long overdue, with some aircraft having insane RP and SL requirements, despite being considerably below what should be considered, top tier. So to see these changes coming in is really good. So what I'll do is I'll have a look at the big winners from these changes, and then we'll delve into some of the other stuff that's also been mentioned in this post. I'll just quickly go over the biggest reductions that we're going to see with the vehicle research, specifically anything that's getting a reduction of 50,000 RP or more, because if I was to go over the entire list, well, we'd be here for a very long time. It's a pretty comprehensive spreadsheet. So what I did is I copied everything over into my own little spreadsheet here, and we will go over the changes that I have highlighted. And as you can see, there's actually still quite a lot going on, even after I've cut through all of the mess of the big spreadsheet. So the column that I've highlighted here is the research cost in RP. And there have been some really big reductions across the board, across all nations. So I'll just quickly go through, what the big takeaways here are. Now with America, we got the two F-104s. Both of them have received a reduction of over 100,000 RP each, which is great to see. The F5 has actually seen a reduction, 50,000. A big winner is the F-86 F2, and a vehicle that is often quite overlooked nowadays, particularly in the sim space. That has had a massive reduction, 380,000 down to 180,000, which is long overdue. There is no way that that thing should have still had the same RP requirements as a top tier jet, so that is fantastic to see. The same thing on the F9 F8, which is actually one of my favorite jets, and I was quite disgruntled back in the day when I had to research so much for it, so it's glad to see that's had a reduction. That's actually one of the better sort of mid-tier jets that you can get. It's for sim, I think it's 8.3, and you get A9Bs with it. To see that go down to only 180,000 RP, that is also a really welcome change. Another big winner, you got the A4B, another negative 200,000 on the RP, and the FJ4B losing 120,000. Moving down to Germany, we have got some other positive changes as well. Notably, the CL13s are getting a nice fat reduction, as they should be. One of them's dropping by 200,000, the other one by 170,000, and the F86K is also getting a welcome reduction from 390,000 down to 270,000 RP. Definitely overdue. And the MiG-19S is also getting a welcome reduction. So that's going from 390,000 down to 220,000. Why the big reduction for something supersonic? Well, unlike the Russian MiG-19, this thing only has guns. It doesn't have air-to-air missiles at all. So, frankly, I'm glad to see this kind of drop on this aircraft. Speaking of Russia, Yak-38M, that is going down to 220,000 RP. The MiG-17, thank God, is finally going down to 180,000 RP. Why that was still 380,000, I don't know. I want to know what glue they were sniffing over there, because it must be very, very potent. Another good winner of this is the Su-7 going down to 180,000. Again, despite it being a fast supersonic strike aircraft, it isn't as meta as other stuff. Like, you know, it isn't the best thing in terms of air-to-air combat. It's more, you know, as, you know, it's a strike aircraft. And it isn't top dog in what it does anyway. So to see that kind of reduction is also really good as well. Another big takeaway on this is the Yak 28B is going down from 380 down to 180,000. And, you know, those are the big ones, but there's a smattering of other reductions as well, like the T90 are getting reductions, T80, these are tanks. The biggest tank reduction I think I've seen so far is down with Britain, but we'll have a look at that before. But as you can see here, there's already a trend where most of the reductions we're seeing is with aircraft because of the introduction of rank 7. Moving down to Britain, the Hunter F1, one of my favourite sort of mid-tier jets, has got a big reduction in RP, which is good, as has the F6. Now, of course, that's not getting as much of a reduction as the F1 because it is, you know, better with SRAMs and everything, but they're both going down by 200,000 and 170,000 respectively, which is really good to see. The Javelin, the Angry Dorito, is going down to 180,000, always good, and the Jaguar GR1, the Buccaneer is going down to 180,000, and the Jaguar is going down to 220,000. The biggest tank reduction we're seeing in RP is the Striker, which is losing 70,000 out of its RP requirements. And it's also a bit cheaper as well, but we'll get on to SL costs later on, because that is a slightly different topic I want to talk about in this video. Now, Japan. The big winner for Japan is the T2, which has rapidly found itself becoming outclassed by other aircraft with the introduction of Mark II capable jets. So it's good to see that go down from 390 down to a much more appreciable 220,000. And the F104J has gone down to 220,000 as well. And the F4E has actually lost 50,000 RP, and we've also got a couple of vehicles as well. The Type 90 and the Type 93 have had a reduction. Now, one of the big winners, alongside, I would say, the USA and Germany in this economy change is China. So we've had some real big reductions here. The F100 is going down by 170k, the F104 120k, the J4 by 200k, the J6A 170, the J72 120, and the Q5 early by 170k. So those are some big reductions across the board there, and we've got a couple of ground vehicles again at the bottom that are also losing 50k. Italy, the F86K as well is going down, which is really nice to see because, you know, with other more clubbier jets being available now, it really shouldn't have that kind of research requirements. The G91YS has gone down by a big chunk, which is awesome to see. Yes, it has an afterburner, but no, it's not supersonic. Why is it going to be 390,000 RP? So, good to see that going down to 220. France has had some big reductions as well, actually. So the Mystère 4A, you're losing 200k. Super Mystère, 170,000. The F86K is again dropping with them as well to 180,000, much like the F86K with Germany and Italy. And the Étendard is going down by 170k. And last but certainly not least, we have Sweden. The J29F is finally going down because that really shouldn't have had a research requirement of 380k. The J32B has had a big reduction of 170, and the A32A as well. So these are some really, really good reductions in the RP requirements for researching these vehicles. And it's not just the RP requirements that have been reduced. There have also been some major reductions to the cost of vehicle modifications, again, particularly with jets. Now, I won't go into as much details as I did with the RP requirements. However, there are some big savings to be had now with the purchasing of modifications for aircraft, particularly in Tier 6. Let's have a look at this. So the modification cost difference for aircraft in Silver Lions, 7.25 million is being reduced across the board of US aircraft in Tier 6. 2.3 million with Germany, 3.4 million for Russia, 4.8 million for Britain. Is that 14 mil? No. That's not 14. That's 1.4 million for Japan. I was going to say 14. Oh my god. 2.7 for China, 1.5 for Italy, 3.5 for France, quite generous indeed, and 1.5 for Sweden. So those are some big savings. I know for a lot of the tier 6 jets, like jets that are only like, 8.3, 8.7 battle rating, you were still paying, 40, 50, 60,000 silver lions for an end of tier modification. Those days are going to be no more, which is really nice to see. And there have also been some pretty decent savings in tier 7 and tier 5 as well, but tier 6 is the big winner here. And there is some similar changes to the costs in tanks. However, a lot of these are actually increases rather than decreases, so that's less of a win than the aircraft. But the big thing in here is, those juicy numbers at the bottom. Those are some big fat reductions, which is some of the best news that I've seen economy wise in a very long time. So very, very, very happy. Now these are some really fantastic changes, and as I said before, a lot of them are overdue. But you may have noticed something distinctly missing from the changes on the main spreadsheet that I was going over earlier. A complete absence in the reduction of silver lion costs to purchase and crew these vehicles. There have been basically no changes. Why are we still paying 1 million silver lions for an F-86F? Why are we still paying 1 million silver lions for a CL-13? Why are we paying nearly 1 million silver lions for an F9, F8? These are all aircraft that have been nowhere near top tier for a very long time. They're not even supersonic. We should not be paying top tier prices for them. And with BR compression becoming such a problem right now, particularly in RB, a lot of these aircraft barely get touched, and most of the time people are buying them simply to get through to the next vehicle after them. So you're essentially spending 1 million silver lions to have the privilege to research the next jet that also happens to be worth 1 million silver lions, because that jet's actually competitive and this one isn't because it's so compressed that it's just not used. It's honestly quite bonkers. However, I will say that despite that, overall, these changes are good. The reduction in RP requirements and the silver line costs for modifications are a very welcome change. But that wasn't the only thing discussed in the post. Gaijin also talked about reward multipliers. Now, that section of the forum post was rather long, convoluted, and at times rather confusing. I don't know if that's due to translation or just the way they worded it. But this is the long and short of it. They are proposing to increase the rewards on a losing game by a bit, and also reduce the rewards on a winning game by a bit. So, with the proposal, players would earn 0.8 RP per second in a lost mission, and 1.2 RP per second in a winning mission. Now currently, without this being a thing, you currently get 0.6 RP a second for a loss and 1.4 RP a second for a win. So it would be a change of 0.2 RP per second each way. I'm not sure how I feel about the suggestion right now. Obviously, this was a decision made more with the consideration of RB games in mind, as that is the most popular game mode. However, considering the abysmal rewards you currently get for sim games, particularly lost sim games, this could be a good change. However, that being said, the main problem with sim rewards is not the RP earnings, it's the silver line income which gets wrecked by crushing repair costs, but that's a topic for another day. As I said, overall, I think there are more positive changes here than negative ones, and I'm doing my best not to rant about it, so seeing as this was what came out, it's actually quite a pleasant surprise for me. I was expecting some reductions, but I wasn't expecting some of them to be as large as they are, so it's actually very refreshing to see that. Let's hope that the same thing happens to certain vehicles' repair costs, otherwise a lot of us are going to be going bankrupt if we want to continue playing jets, particularly in sim games, and certain jets in RB and arcade with the way that compression's been going on recently. But I'd like to hear your opinions on the matter in the comments below, so feel free to drop down your opinion here. I have been reading all the comments I've been getting on these videos. I don't always respond, but I definitely read, and you know, there have been some really interesting discussions going on. And overall, the economy changes this time don't make me want to throw a brick into my face. So yeah, it's been a nice one to see. But anyway, that's all for today. I just wanted to thank you all very much for watching / listening to my spreadsheet rant presentation thing. I don't know, but yeah, that's the economy changes for August, coming in hot, hopefully within the next week. So I will see you all next time, and thank you for watching. Goodbye.